We sailed out of Camden, Maine. From the top of Mount Batty in the neighboring Camden Hills, you can look down on the snug harbor. It is from this vantage point that the poet Edna St. Vincent Millay wrote her first poem while she was still a teenager. The seafood at all of the restaurants in town is just absolutely wonderful, and I recommend it highly. We boarded the Angelique on Sunday afternoon, spent the night on the boat in the harbor, and then on Monday began our 5 days of sailing on Penobscot Bay, which is 1,000 square miles. The Angelique is a replica of an 1880s boat, and it was built in 1975 for passenger traffic. This is the companionway down and up to the areas where the staterooms are. The rooms are quite small, but they're comfortable enough for sleeping with 2 bunks and a freshwater sink. The head is right out in the hallway as a marine toilet and a shower. We had the option of helping with the sails. I always chose to help. Here's the Angelique under full sail, all 7 of them. The 7 sails total nearly 5,300 square feet of space, which makes for a heavy load when hoisting, so it's a group chore. So we formed 2 lines, one on the port side, one on the starboard side. One raised the throat and the other pulled the line which raised the peak. The throat is closest to the mast. The final few feet are the hardest of all, and the crew takes over at that point. Several things we were not allowed to do, such as this. This looks like it would have been fun, though. This was another thing we were not allowed to do. I think I would have liked to try it, though. When it was time to strike the sails, some of us were employed to fold it in, furl it in at the bottom. Fortunately, we did not have to hoist the anchor on. They had an old, classic windlass to do that job. And one of the hands had to be working to flake the chain so it would be in orderly position for the next time the anchor was dropped.
Okay.
Here's the galley crew. They did a wonderful job feeding us, and every day we had fresh baked goods for meals. A favorite gathering place was in this deck house. We couldn't all fit in there at the same time, but it was a very comfortable space. The crew always kept all the ropes neatly organized, ready for use. I think they came out looking kind of artistic, the way they had them all laid out on the deck. There was always something to do to keep you occupied, or you could just sit around and read if you wanted, or enjoy the beautiful scenery. The crew, however, were always busily engaged in some sort of activity to keep the boat ship-shape. And they always carried special tools that they might need for doing their job. Here's some of that beautiful scenery I was referring to. Penobscot Bay has many, many islands, all very scenic, and of course the Maine coastline is beautiful also. Several times we took a dinghy and rowed to an island or to a small coastal town. Here we're going to Brooklyn, Maine to hear a steel band concert and also to visit the school and store of the Wooden Boat School. doors and windows to get a sight of what was happening inside.
Yes, it looks. We're all of us. I think it's you.
We got much better at rowing after we had had some practice at it. Getting 8 people synchronized to all go the same way takes a little bit of practice.
With your oar back towards you like so.
The harbor at Brooklyn, Maine had 12 of the tall ships there. It's the annual gathering of the fleet, which we got to enjoy. Sunset is always a special time on the water. We got to enjoy a number of beautiful sunsets. One of the larger isles is Deer Isle, and it is inhabited by 1,000 or so people, so there's a bridge to it. Unfortunately, our mast was too tall, so one of the crew members had to go up on the lower part of the mast so that we could fit under, which we just barely did. Some of our meals were eaten on deck, and a number of the dinners were down below deck in the dining room. And one afternoon we went onto the beach and had a wonderful bunch of appetizers followed by a lobster bake. Many of us ate 2 or 3 lobsters, and there were still plenty to spare. Here's that famous trio: hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil. First and second mates took off for a little sail once. Every Elderhostel must have strong educational components as part of it. Here are our instructors, Bud and Barb. Every day, Bud posted an itinerary for that day, telling us the classes and the activities. And Barbara was a licensed raptor rehabilitator and brought 3 of her injured raptors for us to see on the final night of our cruise when we were back in Camden Bay. Here are Captain Mike and his wife Lynn. We never had a chance to get a group photo, but here are some candid shots of people who were on the Elderhostel program with us. I've done a couple dozen Elderhostel programs now, and the universal truth I found on every one of them: you meet wonderful, wonderful people, and this one was no exception. So, if you enjoy the ocean or sailing, and if tight sleeping quarters don't bother you, and if you like good food and lots of it, along with plenty of crisp, clean air, with magnificent scenery all around you and wildlife sightings on a regular basis, I highly recommend go for a sail on the Angelique. You'll love it.